And here we go. Welcome to another game of Axis and Allies. In this one, we are playing as the Allied powers, going up against the Axis, generaled by user Christopherian, who in the previous ranked season, number 12, was the 587th silver ranked player with the Axis powers. I think this was a good game. It was a very instructive game, especially in regards to my play with the Allied powers. I think I really focused on the basics and the fundamentals of Allied play, which in my opinion really comes down to logistics. How are you able to consistently facilitate the transport of troops, specifically with the US and with the UK, into key areas, into key battle zones on the map? And if you can do that efficiently and effectively, get into the fray early in the game, it gives you a pretty good chance to get a positive outcome, at the end of it all. So I don't want to go through too much more and risk spoiling anything, but I think it is a good case study in regards to like the basics. So if you're newer to Axis and Allies, this will be a good game to get familiar with the general ideas and some basic strategies that you can use to always give yourself a fighting chance in most games. If you guys do enjoy the video, please do like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It always helps. I'm planning to push out all my games here in Ranked Season 13. We'll see how far I can get up the ranked ladder. And we're just getting started. I'd love to have you guys along for the ride. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and hop into this one. Here we go. Russia won in Game 1 of Ranked Season number 13. We're taking on the Allies here. And for our Russian opener, I'm going to mix it up a little bit, but going to try to speed through this because, beyond the purchase here, we're going to stick to, what is a typical game plan with the 12-9 attack. But I'm going to mix things up. I'm going to go with 1 tank. We're going to get 3 artilleries and then 2 infantries just to kind of max out our purchase with the IPC we have. Then we'll think about a fighter and some additional infantry in round 2 for our next buy. We're going to lock that in. And then as I already touched on, we are not going to try anything too crazy here. So we'll go ahead and lock in this attack on West Russia, this attack onto Ukraine, and that's gonna do it. Let's pray for some good dice. Gosh. Okay, I'm pausing here because I want to take a look at what he could hit the Caucasus with. So we have nothing but the bomber remaining, but we have all 3 of our tanks still intact. I'm basically wondering if I should wipe the bomber and then sacrifice the tanks in Ukraine, or do we retreat and then try to hold the Caucasus and try to keep these 3 tanks. So we know we can build 4 units in the Caucasus. We'll have 3 tanks. We can land our fighters. Assuming we take West Russia, all he can hit us with is some air, 2 tanks, and a transport, and a battleship. We can move both AA guns. I don't think he would do that. So you know what? I'm gonna retreat. I'm gonna try something a little different. I usually don't like to leave the bomber. It's kind of annoying that he didn't take the bomber hit first. So we're giving him a chance to build, another bomber, have 2 bombers in round 2 if he goes to the standard buy. But I'm gonna try to mix things up a little more. Getting the tank in this purchase will give us a nice little 4-man tank corps. Maybe have some extra tanks survive West Russia. We'll see what we can get going there. But yeah, we'll mix it up a little bit with the retreat here. West Russia was okay. I think we lost 3 guys in West Russia. It could have been a little better, but I'm not going to complain about that. We're going to go ahead and move all of these guys into... Oh, we got an extra guy here. I usually send this guy down, but just to make sure these 3 tanks survive, I'm going to move him here. Everyone else is coming back. We're not going to get cute with Japan. We're going to send everyone back towards Russia and make sure that we have enough guys over here to survive whatever silliness arises with this extra bomber alive in Ukraine. All right, well, nothing more I can do here. This will forever hold my peace, and I'm really curious to see how this retreat strategy goes here. So tank into Russia. We're going to send 2 artilleries there, the other one into Russia, another 2 infantry here, and that'll give us a little kick into Ukraine on the next turn. And that's going to do it for Russia round number 1. So we will see you guys back for UK 1. United Kingdom, round 1. Now, I've been sitting here for a better part of 5 to 10 minutes thinking about how crazy do I want to consider getting? And the short answer is because the results in Russia and Germany on turn 1 have been pretty positive for us. I think I'm going to stick with a pretty vanilla UK opener. But let's first touch on what Germany did. So Germany bought 11 infantry and 2 artilleries. Combat-wise, they went ahead. They took Karelia, C-Zone 17. They took out the destroyer. They took Transjordan. And in C-Zone 7, they took out the fleet here, lost the sub. And in 11, we traded destroyer sub. But big win for the Americans is we maintained those 2 transports. If we look at the state of this Germany-Russia border after the first turns, Germany looks very thin, obviously. So Bello, Ukraine only have a guy. And they went ahead and stacked Karelia, but we could hit that. Retreating with those 3 tanks gives us enough firepower to go hit this with 8 guys, 2 artillery, 5 tanks, 2 fighters. And that should give us a 90% chance to conquer. And I'm kind of the mind to do that. I mean, if we're going to retreat to save the tanks, let's use the tanks. That's a big stack of 14 guys and takes almost all the pressure off Russia. Now, it's going to come at the cost of pretty much everything. He's got enough of a kickback with these 2 infantry, all his air, these 5 tanks. He's going to hit it. But I think it puts such a dent into Germany and gives us such a good opportunity as the Allies to come after Germany hard, fast and hard. So I think that's going to be the strategy here. We're going to go KGF. So knowing we're going to hit Karelia and try and take out those 14 guys, sacrifice some of our Russian firepower in the process, means we're going to have to try and make sure we can put some pressure on with Germany, with the Brits and the Americans as quickly as we can, and pray that Japan doesn't get enough momentum going to kind of deter us from our plan of getting Germany first. All that said, meaning our purchase, I flirted with the idea of just dropping a fleet here. I think that's a little premature. He has the bomber, 5 fighters, all in range of C-Zone 7. We're going to need a little time to get the Americans over, so I think we are going to instead get a couple troops for India. We're going to get 2 more fighters. And if we wipe Karelia, the thought is that these 2 fighters can come land here in Archangel. 1, 2, 3, 4. They can't hit us with any tanks, guys. I mean, you can send some air. But again, I think he's going to need that to take whatever we have remaining in Karelia. And we'll stick with the strategy of getting enough air into Russia and ultimately India to defend while the Americans take a couple turns to really get up and running. So nothing new with the UK here. We'll lock in the purchase. We're going to take out what's remaining here in C-Zone 7. We'll send 1 fighter for that. Send 1 fighter for the transport. We need to secure Africa, so we're going to send the bomber and the fighters at the battleship. All 3 of these guys, or maybe 2 of these guys. Let's see, 3. I want to leave 1 guy here, just this tank doesn't blitz through Egypt and get into Africa and cause a pain in our you-know-what. Take the transport and 2 guys from India. Make sure that that's a victory. The sub here, we'll see if he's got his defense profile on. Otherwise, we'll take that 2v1. These other guys will just head around the Cape of South America. And lastly, we'll send the carrier, cruiser to get that transport destroyer. And that's going to do it for attacks for the UK. Lock it in, baby. Wow, that's awesome. Come on. Yes. I mean, combat was incredible, to be honest. I don't think that could have gone any better. We didn't take any hits in 7, so now I'm kind of regretting maybe not trying to drop a fleet in this first round because both the destroyer cruiser survived, but I don't know, coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? Yeah, we took Transjordan. I think we took a hit there, no issue. We one-rounded the battleship, which is great. We took a hit on the bomber, which is the play. If you're new to Axis and Allies, that is what you need to do. The bomber has to land in Egypt, which, you know, makes an attack on Egypt a lot more attractive. So we'll keep 2 fighters, right? That'll be much more useful to us in the later rounds. Down here, you know, we took a hit, but we ended up trading, and we took the transport with the destroyer, and then he didn't have his defense profiles on the sub here in 44 set to submerge. So we hit him on round 1 with our sub, and he missed with the, you know, the 1 out of 6 chance to get us back. So taking that sub out pretty much means, you know, it's going to be very risky for him to do Pearl Harbor, and the Americans are going to have a little bit of a step ahead. So it was, you know, you could not have asked for a better round 1, given the attacks that we decided to do for the UK. I am, as we're talking through all this, going ahead and just moving some of our guys around. But this is all pretty standard stuff. I always forget what I do with this guy in Burma. Do I move him? Yeah, I guess we'll leave him there. And I think that does it for the non-combat. Fighters in England, 2 artilleries, 1 infantry in India. And that'll be a wrap. We'll see you guys in US 1. All right, we are back for US 1. Let's take a look at what Japan did. They went ahead and bought 2 artilleries, 3 transports, bringing his total now up to 4 transports. Combat-wise, he went ahead and moved into Buryatia with 4 guys in a tank. He did take his shot at Pearl Harbor and seemed to be relatively successful. He did lose 2 fighters, though. So you expect to lose 1. We got another. His cruiser survived, and we'll coordinate on how we want to go ahead and take that out. But unfortunately, he didn't leave me with a shot at his aircraft carrier, which sometimes gets kind of lost in your non-combat with Japan. So we'll have to figure out what we want to do next to mop up what happened in Pearl Harbor. Took out the cruiser in 61. That's expected. Onway, he took that, lost an infantry. And then he lost 2 infantry in Yunnan. So that is a pretty decent defensive outcome for us. The Americans, I think, have a pretty straightforward plan here. So we're obviously focusing on Germany. We know that. Making our purchase pretty simple, I think. We're going to get a carrier for 2 of the fighters that we have. We'll get 2 transports. And we will go ahead and use the last 10 IPC we have to get another fighter. And we'll probably grab another carrier next turn, just to help with fleet defense. And we're going to just start to get this logistics operation up and running, and hopefully be landing units, you know, within the next 1 or 2 turns, you know, in Africa or in and around Europe, which is the plan. So artillery, 2 transports, fighter, carrier, we're locking that in. So combat, I don't think we're going to have any. I'm honestly not really sure what goes on with this sub here. With the destroyer, the cruiser already in here. I thought there was a way to disengage. That might be only like sub versus sub. It'll let me like move it out, but I don't know what that means. Like, are we gonna fight and then move, or do I move him first? Is that a non-combat move? I'm a little confused, to be honest. But my thought is to actually try and hit this with this cruiser sub combo from the UK. Just increase the odds that I can hit that. But is there any reason not to just try and shoot that shot now? It would allow us to bring the cruiser around a little earlier, help with fleet defense. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to leave it. We'll take our shot. If we miss, we'll just send sub cruiser, go and clean that up. Or, you know, hope that it cleans it up. I don't have much success with this sub anyways, like kind of trying to pester Japan in and around these waters. It does give him some flexibility to leave some transports a little naked in and around Japan, but I don't know. It kind of just becomes annoying to move that around. So yeah, we'll let him do that. But outside of that, everything else is going to be non-combat. We cannot hit Morocco, unfortunately. He's got these 2 fighters. He's got the bomber. That bomber also hits 23 here. So if I dropped these 2 guys here into Africa, you know, he could hit this and then land in Morocco. Now the thought is that worth baiting him to try and do that and then hit with the 2 transports so we can hit Morocco next turn? Probably not worth sacrificing 2 transports. So everything else is going to be non-combat. So just so it's clear, I don't want to hit with the battleship destroyer or any of these fighters. You know, that would be an easy hit for this cruiser. But I think it's worth trying to take that shot with the sub and the sub cruiser combo for the UK in order to get these guys into the Atlantic sooner. So we can get them into the Atlantic a whole turn sooner. If we hit this, it's going to set us behind, meaning we won't have that fleet here till, what, round 4? we can get them there round 3 and helping with landings and all that, which I think is of more value. So that's the logic behind hitting with the subs and the UK versus, you know, sending these guys down to clean this up and Pearl. All right, that's it for US. Come on, sub. Let's see what you got. Okay, the sub missed, which is a bummer. So we're gonna have to send the sub cruiser and hope we get some better dice next turn. We'll go ahead and get these guys moving. Send these guys down. These guys will move over to the central US. We can leave that one guy there with them. These guys are all gonna move up into Canada. At least give them a little more flexibility with these 2 transports. These fighters will land on the carrier. Bomber will go. Is there any reason not to send them up here into Archangel? We know we're going to take Karelia with the Russians, or try to. I guess that would be one reason not to, is we fail and then lose a bomber and some fighters. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and just leave the bomber there in Archangel. I'm pretty confident we're going to take Karelia, so this will give us a little more flexibility if we want to send that bomber to India and just try and be annoying in and around the Pacific here. Pick off a transport here or there. Maybe we get lucky. Why not? I don't think it's doing much in England, so we'll leave him there. We'll send these 2 guys back. This fighter is going to go ahead and land. Well, India is not under threat. There are no transports in range of India. He can land in Burma, though. So where would you be helping? I think my plan's to take Ukraine, so the Caucasus is not under threat. We're not going to land in West Russia just because he will have 5 tanks that he could hit with. And maybe we send him to Moscow in case things just go terribly. Yeah, all right, we'll send him to Moscow. Boats here in the Pacific are going to come down. This cruiser is going to come out to 12. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, if he wants to send the bomber, be my guest. This little fighter here will come to the central US. Transport down. Canadian down, or Alaskan into Canada. Okay, that's going to be it for the US. Round 1, pretty uneventful. Wish we won that coin flip with the sub, but you know, you can't win them all. That's what I always say. You can't win. Oh, I always do that. I feel like I can land a fighter somewhere else and then mobilize the one on the carrier. And so that I always make that mistake. Everything else into here, we'll have these 2 transports fully loaded with these 3 guys in the artillery, and we have some flexibility to go south into Africa. I think we'll probably need to do that, but we'll see how we're looking next turn. All right, the Russians. So we know we are going to take this shot at Karelia. We know that that is likely going to come at the cost of 6, 8, 10, 15 land units, whether we lose them on the first shot or they counterattack and hit us back. Oh, I just want to think, is this the right play? I'm not sure if it is, but it stops him from building 2 units, so, you know, it kind of takes an additional 2 units off our front. I'm going to do it just because I want to be aggressive and I want to put the pressure on Germany. So that said, we're going to need a lot of guys, which makes me think that we're just going to go infantry and artillery here. Now, I sometimes look at getting the extra fighter, but because we're going to spend so many guys, you know, we can try and get the fighter next turn. But I think because we really need to just kind of rebuild the army, knowing we're about to lose, you know, 10 plus guys, 15 guys. So we're going to do 6 infantry, 2 artillery, lock that in, and then we're going to take our shot up into Karelia here. Everything we got, all 2 of these guys, all the tanks, fighters. And then the question is, how hard do we push into Ukraine? My initial thought was everything. And this is to create an additional target, because I think he will need or want to use some of those tanks in Karelia. And if we have, you know, if we misses and we have 5 guys remaining, he's going to need some of those plus air. He's got the 3 fighters here with the 2 guys he could send. I mean, he could probably get away with it, depending on how bad our dice are, right? He could probably get away with it. How many hits he gets, how good his dice is. You know, obviously I'd like to go light, but my concern going light is if we send 3 guys and we lose, which is unlikely but possible, He can just blitz the Caucasus with 5 tanks. If we go light, we have 2 infantry, 1 artillery. The obvious option is just to send another one. Preserve the artillery. I think we'll do that. That's the best of both worlds. I really don't think this is worth giving him any other crazy options. He does have the bomber. All right, everything else is good. We'll send those 4 into Ukraine. 17 into Karelia. Strong, strong. Come on, RNGesus. Good first turn. Good first turn. Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. I mean, combat was pretty good. I mean, we didn't get any hitbacks in Ukraine, so those 4 guys are unscathed. And we have all 5 of our tanks remaining. So we got some pretty good dice, I think. We got an above average outcome here. My only hesitation here, in hindsight, he had 3 tanks remaining at one point. I could have retreated all 5 of these. And I could have retreated them into Archangel because I had some guys coming in here. I think that might have been a mistake. Because I think at that point I would have wiped, what, a tank and 9 infantry at the cost of like 6 infantry. At that point it would have been 7 infantry. And so I could have had 3 infantry and my 5 tanks retreat into Archangel and left those 3 tanks there. That would have been probably the better play. So I'm kind of kicking myself for that one. Again, he can hit this and wipe this if he wants, but we'll just, I guess we're just going to sit and hope that we can get, 2 or 3 hits with those tanks and keep the Germans on their toes. We're going to move 1 guy into West Russia just because why not? We'll move them up. I think everything else here, we'll move this guy into Archangel. We'll move these 5 guys back just because I think we're going to need some bodies here. Yeah, we'll keep the aircraft guns off the front line for now. Just send 1 to Russia. And that's going to do it for the Russians. We'll do our mobilization. Go ahead and send 1 and 1. 3 infantry there, 3 into Russia, and that's gonna do it. But I really do think I got overexcited. I think this not retreating here was a mistake. I just left these fat tanks to die. Those would have been way more useful to us in the long run than wiping this and getting the territory. I don't know. You guys tell me. I'm not sure what the right play is here, but I am of the mind it was to retreat. Time will tell. We'll see you guys back for UK 2. Okay, UK round number 2. Take a look at what Germany did. They went ahead, they purchased 10 infantry, 3 artilleries. They, combat-wise, went ahead and took Karelia. So again, a mistake leaving those 5 tanks there, but we got quite a few hits. 3 infantry, 1 tank. And he's got a remaining 4 sitting here. Very vulnerable. We'll see if we can do anything to hit that. And they also went ahead and they hit Egypt. So we're going to go ahead and hit this back as well. Purchase-wise, I went back and forth on a couple different ideas here, but I've landed in a pretty balanced position, I think. We're going to get 3 infantry. We're going to go ahead and put them in India. And then we're going to go ahead and drop some fleet. We're going to get a carrier. We'll drop these 2 fighters on the carrier, drop a destroyer, and we'll begin to build up, likely look at buying transports next turn and building up some pressure on Germany. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. 3 infantry, destroyer, carrier. And now combat-wise, my initial thought was to take these guys north. We can land them in Finland. We can land with the Americans in both Finland and Norway. But I think I'd give Norway to the Americans. Maybe we'll build an IC there. I'll come back to what we want to do there. We do know that, for starters, we're going to hit this little squad in Egypt and do everything we can to secure Africa. Just to do that, I think I'm going to be safe here. We're going to grab another infantry, bring him back, drop him there. And then we're going to go ahead and hit this carrier that evaded our lone American sub. We'll hit him with both the sub-cruiser combo and pray for some good dice. These guys will continue to swing around into Brazil. And then we're back to where we started. Is there any reason not to take these guys off Canada, drop them over here into Finland? The short answer to that is probably no. So I think I've talked myself into it. I can be very convincing. I can be very, very convincing. 6 aircraft versus our minimal fleet defense. I think my whole strategy was we didn't need to go heavy on fleet because we were going to pull ourselves out of range of the fighters. The bomber is all that can hit us. All the fighters will be 1, 2, 3, nowhere to land because we're going to take Norway with the Americans. Seems like a pretty good idea by my standards. The last thing I'm just calculating now is if we go north, we need to bring the cruiser and the destroyer with us. We're going to have 3 transports there. It's going to be bomber versus cruiser destroyer. And if I was him, I might seriously consider taking that. Is it worth the risk? I mean, that sets us back quite a bit. Him to hit twice and us just to not hit once with 3 shots minimum. Unlikely. And this game's all about being aggressive. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I think that is going to cover all of our possible UK combat. So we're going to close that. All right, here we go. Very nice. All right, combat was good. Didn't need the extra guy in Egypt. We only took 1 hit, so we would have been fine. But I guess better safe than sorry. We'll have an extra guy to push on this lone infantry. These fighters, I suppose, are going to go to Persia and just be ready for any silliness by Japan. We will likely need to start beefing up India. Regroup these guys because why not? These guys come around to Brazil. Oh, the combat here was a success. The cruiser didn't hit us back, and so that went as expected. And now these 2 guys, India is not under threat, so we don't need any support there. I guess the most sensible option is to put them in Russia, and that will allow us to possibly hit anything in Karelia, though I doubt we'll have enough there to do anything seriously. Fighters into 7, cruiser destroyer for the protect the transports. This guy in Africa, let's continue his way up, and I think it's going to do it for the UK. All right, carrier, destroyer, 3 infantry in India. Boom. All right, that's going to do it. Take a quick skim here. We have a slight advantage already in round 2. So wiping these 14 guys, at least from an attack power standpoint. We'll see you guys in US 2. Welcome back. We're here for US round 2. Take a look at what the Empire of Japan was up to last turn. Bought 2 infantry in an industrial complex they put in Manchuria. And then went ahead and just essentially just took all of the remaining Asian territories, or Chinese and northern Eurasian territories in Yakut, took Szechuan. Then they went ahead and they took Burma, and they moved to 10 guys there with these transports and the units they had around here, which means they do have a possible threat on India. But I have done some math, some calculation. We can move all our fighters here and build some more guys. We have a transport here. We could take a tank and a guy as well. We'll have plenty to hold India. Well, I don't know. The more I think about it, I missed the fact he could go ahead and grab these 2 guys. I mean, look, he could take it potentially, but it's going to require him to, sacrifice quite a few fighters and bombers. I don't think I'm of the mind that that's a bad trade. It's probably a fight we have to take, so I think we'll be all right. So we'll handle that with some non-combat and primarily on the UK's turn. For the US, which is really what we're here for, we're going to buy 5 infantry, an artillery, and a transport and an aircraft carrier. If you do the math here, we'll have almost fully loaded transports. With this additional guy in Canada coming over, we'll have 7 units on the board. And we'll have, 4 transports with this one coming up from 19. We'll build one, and then these 2 are going to come up and then be coming back in a turn to pick up some guys, which means we'll have a spot for a anti-aircraft gun, which is fine. I mean, I prefer units, but we'll thin that out or fill out those transports with the AA gun because I really want to get the anti-aircraft. I really want to get the aircraft carrier. I think these 2 fighters and the additional fleet defense will be really valuable for us as we kind of work our way through the Med or in the North Atlantic. In combat, I think is pretty straightforward. We are going to go ahead and take Norway up here. I flirted with the idea of not sending both transports just because I'm a little worried he might take this cruiser destroyer versus bomber fight, and there is a chance he could wipe us there. You know what? I'm just gonna go for it. If he wants to take the bomber versus cruiser destroyer, I think the odds are in our favor. We should be able to hit that. Now, additionally, we can take these 4 guys, send them here into Morocco, and he'll have 3. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 units against these 3 aircraft. Is there any reason to do that? Not totally sold that that's really necessary, as I don't think this one guy here in Africa is going to be doing much damage. He could jump into Africa with Japan, which would be an interesting move. And if he does that, we can always come back. We can always drop down from 10 into either of these. So I think moving him here is probably the most flexible, and getting this 1 IPC for a turn isn't really going to make or break this game. Attacks, what we are going to do, we're going to go ahead and hit this unit here. We're going to take our bomber. We're going to hit him with that. This fighter has to go to India, and that's going to do it for American combat. Nice. Alright, I had to go ahead and cut out some of the audio there. There was some weird feedback I was getting on the mic that I just had to cut out while editing this. So I'm going to go ahead and speed through both combat and the non-combat here with the Americans and spare everyone, watching this the issues with the mics there. So there isn't too much here to really note in regards to the American non-combat. We're just going to organize our troops on the boats to continue to move troops to Europe. So that's what you'll see us moving, the boats from the Pacific into the mid-Atlantic, moving units into Canada, the transports up into Canada, and just getting those organized. Yeah, and moving the cruiser up to help with, possible fleet defense there in Zone 7, and moving the fighter to India and the bomber as well, just to provide an extra hit. So that's really about it. All units written in mobilization are going to go to the eastern U.S., and then we'll start Russia. Now, the Russians, initial thought here, fighter, 2 artillery, 3 infantry. 3 infantry, 2 artillery, and the extra fighter. Lock it in. And as I was alluding to, I think we're going to honestly just dive as deep into Europe here, into Western Europe as we can. I'm going to send the artillery south with 1 guy. We'll send these 2 guys into Poland. This 1 guy goes into Bello. And then let's make sure we know where these guys will land. So this 1 fighter here will be able to land back in Russia. And if we hit Poland here, 1, 2, 3. Oh boy. We would land this fighter in Ukraine, which is only an issue if we don't win Bello, because these 4 tanks can blitz through. Now we'd have the option to move these 5 guys up, and we'd probably be okay. So I don't see that being a major issue. And then we just hope that the artillery infantry combo in Bulgaria Romania is enough to take that 1 guy out. So it's thin. It's really thin. But I think if all goes well, it's just going to be good IPC for us, and force Germany to just continue to trade units while we get the Americans and the British stronger foothold on the continent, which is priority number 1, if you ask me. All right, lock it in. And we got to just hope for some good dice. Favorable and some strongs. I don't know. It seems a little more 50-50. Let's see. Beautiful. He's hitting everything. Oh, darn it. All right, well, combat was good, but he got a hit back in every fight, which, the odds of that are pretty low. So he hit here in Bulgaria, he hit in Poland, then I took Bello as the last, and I'm like, well, odds are he's not going to hit in all 3, and I was wrong. So he obviously took the 1 guy there, meaning we're going to have to move these 5 guys with, let me just make sure, yeah, that's the only spot he can land. We'll go ahead and move this AA gun up. We're going to move at least 1 guy here. The question is, any reason to keep this 4 infantry in Evenki? Did this be annoying against this 4-1 stack here? The only air he can bring to this fight are the bombers. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if he wants any chance at India, he's going to need the bombers. The other option is to do this. Put an additional guy there. One guy here. One guy in West Russia. Everything we can go into Ukraine. I mean, that's going to be all tanks in air. So that's going to be an expensive fight if he decides to take that. And we'll get shots with the AA gun. Probably not a fight he should take. Yeah, I like it. We're not going to just let him run in here with Japan. So we'll put another guy there and cross our fingers. I like it. No, I love it. Let's close it. That's going to do it for the Russians. We're going to mobilize fighter into Russia. We'll send two artillery into the Caucasus. Yeah, 2 and then a 1 into Russia. And that is going to close Russia round 3. See you guys back on UK3. Welcome back to UK3. Let's go ahead and take a look at what Germany did last turn. They purchased all infantry. So an interesting purchase. I don't think it's necessarily the wrong idea. Maybe I would have gone about executing a little differently. Eventually, my thought is that he's just going to get to a point where he has no punch, right? No ability to fight back if he has nothing but infantry and rolling ones. But let's see. Let's see if I'm right. We'll see how that plays out. Combat-wise, he did take a shot. I was kind of worried about this. He said the bomber after this little mini fleet of transports and the cruiser-destroyer we have in C-Zone 3, and unfortunately lost the bomber for him, and very fortunately for us. And we suffered no losses, so we ended up not actually getting a hit on either the cruiser or the destroyer. So good news for us. That's a lot of IPC that could have went down the drain if things did not go as we had hoped. West Russia, he destroyed an infantry, put a tank there, and then moved 3 tanks into Archangel. So essentially just moved all those out of Karelia and took back a couple territories here on the German border in Poland and Bulgaria, Romania. We did not get any hitbacks, but really just happy that this battle went as we had hoped. I will take a poor defensive showing in all the other territories to keep those transports safe. For the UK, purchase-wise, we're in a little bit of an interesting spot. I've kind of gone back and forth on a few ideas. One of them was to go ahead and just load up transports here in C-Zone 7, but I quickly decided that's a bad idea because I forgot I had to buy troops for India. The Japanese are knocking on the door. They're going to have, 10 ground units, 12 with these guys coming off the East Indies, and 2 bombers, 4 fighters, 2 bombards with the battleships. It's not a sure thing. All that to say, what we're going to do, we're going to buy 2 infantry for England. That's going to load up an additional transport for us. Then we're going to put 1 infantry, 1 tank, and a fighter. We're going to mobilize those into India. We're going to fly all the other UK fighters into India, and that's going to give us a pretty good defense there. We're going to also then take this transport, move a tank and 2 infantry into India. We'll close the purchase there. Buying a transport. I'm going to throw that in C-Zone 7 and try to build up a little transport fleet for England. And let's hop into some combat. So the fact that India is under threat is going to make our hit into, Libya, a little thin. We'll have a guy here if by somehow we don't hit this guy, at least blocking him from running loose into Egypt and south into Africa. We're going to take these 2 guys off the transport. We're going to drop them into Morocco. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we can use this 1 guy actually as a part of the transport with the tank. So we can send all these infantry, and then these 2 will be boarding and landing in India. Nothing to do up here. These guys will be non-combat. We'll put a additional 2 guys in Finland, and that's going to do it for UK attack. Let's hop into it. All right, lost a guy in the return fire in Libya, but that was about it. So we're going to move all these fighters down into India. Infantry, tank, into India. These 2 guys, where can you go? You're going to go up here and watch over these waters over the coast of Japan, off the coast of Japan. Man, I cannot click and talk. I catch myself all the time just using the wrong little words like the does and the ons and the offs, and it's something I need to try and get better at. But I'm like thinking about what I want to say, about what I want to do, reading the board. It's too much for my little brain to handle at times. The cruiser, I guess we'll just send east into the Atlantic. It'll be a couple turns, but I'm not sure what else to do with them. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a couple of these guys. Now we're gonna have 2 infantry, right? Yeah, we'll have 2 infantry, so we can take these 2. And my thought is just if he decides he wants to try and hit Finland, I'd rather not lose the artillery tank. Let's keep those guys for a future landing. Do we move these fighters to Russia and then ultimately down into India if needed, right? Do we need them to help with fleet defense? All he has is the 3 fighters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we could send 1. Then keep 1 for the fleet. That's gonna give us, and then move all these guys up. That's gonna give us cruiser, destroyer, 1, 2, carrier 3, destroyer 4, 5 of the fighter. And then the question becomes, will we be moving this carrier and these fighters? Yeah, we don't need any fleet in C-Zone 7 for the transport. Nothing can hit us from there. So if we're planning to move these guys up, then there's no reason not to send all 2 of these fighters into Russia. We can always send them back, right? It's not like they're forever stuck in Russia. We can always take them back next turn. We just don't need them for defense on this coming turn, which this move I think gives us flexibility, which is kind of the name of the game sometimes. All right. That's going to do it for combat moves. Non-combat moves, again, can't talk. Tank. Fighter. 1 infantry. 2 infantry into England. Transport into 7. And that's going to close our turn for the British. Take a quick look at the state of the board. And we continue to maintain a small advantage over the Axis here. So I like what we're doing. We got some pressure on Germany. He's looking a little thin. We'll be able to take out these 4 tanks, maybe hit Bellow. We'll see. Probably have to lose Ukraine. But yeah, all in all, I think things are starting to come together here. I think the one thing that could really kill us is just if we get some really bad dice in defense of India, if he decides to go for that. It's possible. Certainly not impossible. We'll see you guys back for US 3. Good morning to the great people of YouTube. Let's take a look at what we got going here in US 3. We'll start with getting a recap on what Japan did. Went ahead and bought an infantry, artillery, a tank, and a bomber. Combat-wise, they went ahead and jumped across from, the Burma, Thailand area here into Egypt and Transjordan. So he now holds the Suez. If we're not able to take that back with who I believe is our only chance would be the British next turn, this fleet could jump into the Med and become a little bit of a problem. That is something to keep our eye on. He destroyed the transport off the coast of India and then hopped into Kazakh here. So we'll be able to take that back and maybe snag another territory here with the Americans this term. Purchase-wise, I kind of debated a couple things. Let me just run through what I have now and then kind of walk through my other thoughts. We're going to buy 1 transport. We're going to buy 5 infantry and 1 artillery to load up these 2 transports. These 2 that will be going north and then returning. And then we'll have the 1 here. So those 6 guys will load up those 2 transports. The one thing I need to just quickly stop and think about, I'm going to send these guys into the Med, or I'm going to send them south off the coast of Morocco here. I'm not purchasing another round of units because my assumption is they're not going to come back. My assumption is I'm going to move them into like 15 and I'm going to, drop them in Italy or in Southern Europe just to be annoying. Really just to pull troops away from, what we're trying to do here on the northern end of Europe and lock up a few troops down south here, essentially. Now, if we don't get Suez, that means that these guys are likely not going to have the ability to hop into the Med here, as this Japanese fleet could potentially be there. So there is a risk here that these 2 transports won't have new units if I have to turn around and head back to the coast of the U.S. I think it's fine. And that's because I'm also getting an industrial complex. It's early in the game here, round 3. We can secure Finland here with dropping 2 full transports of units, moving these 4 guys up. And then we have the 4 British units already there. I don't think he has enough to potentially hit us. I mean, we'll have, what, 12 units? We can drop some fighters. He can hit us with 8, 13. I don't think he'll have an option to do that. We're going to take both these territories and hit these tanks, so he's not going to have the ability to rush these tanks, into Finland to support that either. So at the risk of not having an extra load for these 2 transports, we're going to get industrial complex. And that essentially within 2 turns of building units there will have paid for itself and saves us the purchase of a transport. And we can send more transports south into the Africa, Southern Europe areas. So that's what we're going to do purchase wise. That's the general thoughts. Those are the strategies. And combat, we're going to do a couple things. One is we're going to hit this transport with the US bomber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can land back in India. I'm debating where to hit with these 2 infantry. I can split one into Szechuan, and then one into Kazakh. I mean, looking at kind of how this is set up, we're going to need Ukraine to hit Belo. We can have Caucasus hit West Russia. We can have Russia and maybe, a guy or 2 from Evenki hit Archangel. And then we'll probably just leave Ukraine. We'll just have to retreat with the Russians from there. And in order to do that means these 2 guys should probably take Kazakh. 1, 2 with the fighter. Don't need to get too greedy trying to take more American territory in China. And I think that's going to do it for the US of A. Yeah, let's do it. All right, we traded units in Kazakh, but that is okay. I'm going to go ahead and just send this fighter back to India. I'll send the bomber back to India. And we'll figure out how hard we push, out of India. But he's moved all of his transports, out of range of mainland Japan. So he's only going to have pressure with these 7 units that he dropped in Burma. And then the 3 units a turn he'll look to be building here in Manchuria. So as long as we can put a hold and secure Africa, I think we'll be all right. And India will be all right for a few turns, to be honest. And it looks like these guys are heading to Australia potentially, or maybe looking at trying to hit Hawaii. He's spread a little thin as Japan, but it makes for an interesting game, that's for sure. All right, enough chatting. Let's make sure we get our units all rolled up here into Finland. Cruiser up into Sea Zone 3. These 2 transports. We're going ahead and drop another 4 guys there. These 2 transports come back. We'll send this carrier up. And I think I'm going to drop these 2 here, but let's just do a quick fleet count because he can hit us with 3 fighters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 boats with a couple destroyers and a cruiser in there. So I don't think that's a good move for him. These transports will load up. Head to Morocco. You're going to take the destroyer, battleship, carrier, 2 fighters with you here. Now I'm actually wondering, I saw these guys can actually land in Finland as well. You can't hit me with any air in 13, so is it more flexible for us to send them here? Can they come back and land in Sea Zone 15 if we need them to? 1, 2, 3, 4. That math's up for me. We'll send those guys into Finland. Because they can then, if we move this little fleet into 15 here, they'll be able to help if we move them there, because they're not doing anything in 13. At least here in 1, they're at least deterring a possible attack or assisting in defense if he does decide to do it. These 2 guys are going to head back up here, merge with these 2 transports that rotated down. Everything else looks good for the Americans. All right, quick triple check. Have not forgot to move any boats. Screwing up the transport movements in the non-combats is always just a total gut punch. You lose a turn of units getting dropped. I just have like nightmares. I'm always forgetting to move a transport here, a transport there. But I think we're good. Go ahead and close up our turn there. IC into Norway. Transport and units into the eastern US. And that will close the American turn. The USSR. What are we going to do with you? So we got quite a bit of money still. 27 IPC on round 4 is pretty good. It means Russia's doing all right. Now my thought here is we have 3 fighters. We need to get some more units, and I'm flirting with the idea of trying to build a tank or 2. Let's see what that would look like. So I kind of think I changed my mind. I feel like we're a little thin with the Russians here, and I know we're going to start pushing with the British and Americans in Northern and potentially Southern Europe. But I feel like we just need to go and just invest in buying a bulk number of guys right now. And then we can build a few tanks in the following turn. Because we should have another decent little mini stack of IPC to work with. So I think I'm just going to buy 9 infantry. And just really try to beef up our armed forces. Attacks-wise, we know we're going to do this. So we're going to hit this little stack of 3 tanks here. Send 1 guy from Evenki. We could land our fighters in Evenki if we want. At least the ones that hit West Russia and Archangel. Yeah, I'll probably do that. So we'll send 5 units there. Go ahead and hit that with 1 fighter. I think we'll send... I don't think we'll send everything because he has these 8 units here. He could just jump down into... Do I care about that? I mean, that essentially means he's abandoning Karelia for, you know, this stack of 12 allied units. I think I kind of want to encourage that, actually. So we'll send everything. And it saves us a fighter if we want to use an additional fighter elsewhere. And then, just to be safe, we'll do an artillery infantry combo here. We have the option to then hit Bulgaria, Romania with this fighter and these 3 units. I wonder if that's getting too aggressive. But the thought is it does just continue to pull units away. It's another 2 IPC. We're abandoning Ukraine anyways. It just requires him to spend some units to take this back. Is it worth it? You know what? YOLO. Let's do it. We'll send these 3 units into Bulgaria, Romania. It'll leave Ukraine. We'll build in the Caucasus. We'll take West Russia. Take Bello. And then let's just cross our fingers. I'm gonna just cross our fingers. I think this is good. I think the math makes sense, but you never know. Come on, Mello. Come on. Nice. I got. Yeah, so combat was great. I cannot complain. The only thing, we one-rounded everywhere, I think. The only issue, or, you know, slightly annoying thing was all 3 of his tanks hit in Archangel. But that is a price worth paying to essentially guarantee that we been moving all these back 1. What was I saying? I totally got distracted. I forget what I was saying, but yeah, whatever. We'll take that outcome. We took everything we wanted. 2 fighters into Evenki. I mean, you can't send a bomber, so again, it's gonna be like a 6v6. Don't think that's the right move for him. That's pretty much like all of his mainland troops, but we're sitting here blocking them in Yakut. So I think that's a smart move on our part, and that will close the Russian turn in round 4. So let's go ahead and mobilize our 9 infantry. I think just put in 4 into Caucasus, 5 into Russia. Not overthink it. And then we will see you guys back on UK. Welcome back, UK, round 4. Let's take a look at what Japan did. Or Germany, sorry, I'm a little ahead of myself. They bought 11 infantry, 2 artilleries. Was really beefing up his defenses in Europe. Combat-wise, he stepped into Ukraine, went after Bulgaria, Romania, and lost 3 infantry, which is huge. So that was almost an equal trade, you know, but 3 units for 3 units. He took Bello, lost an infantry. He took Archangel, lost an infantry. Wow, we had an incredible defensive turn. And West Russia lost 2 infantry. That is huge. That is huge, huge, huge. We are thinning down the Germans, and the Allies are coming. UK, we're going all units this turn. I flirted with the idea of maybe getting like a bomber for India, but I just thought that was a little misguided. So we're going to stack up England with 6 units, and the infantry artillery tank is going to go into India. And that's really just to burn all our IPC. So all in all, 5 infantry, 3 artillery, 1 tank, into England, into India. Lock it in. I'm feeling good. Combat. I thought about taking these 2 guys up, but I think we may need to keep just some units down here to keep the Japanese honest. I do think I need to take this shot, though. I don't think I want to leave this Suez Canal open. And it's not that this fleet getting in here is like gonna lose me the game. It's just really annoying. It's gonna just stop what we're doing in regards to trying to put the pressure on Germany. We're gonna have to stop and fight. We're gonna have to leave some transports undefended, maybe sacrifice a transport to try and hit a certain territory. Whatever it is, it's just complicated. So I'm gonna try and avoid the complications. Part of that reason is India is safe, meaning we can take these fighters and use this in the attack to assist in Egypt. The question is how many? I'm thinking how many, because they're likely going to need to land in Libya. We do have 2 more fighters that can come down here and land, but they can't assist in the attack because the other thought is I want to take Burma. With how many units do I take Burma is the question. Now, additionally, we're going to step into Karelia. I can obviously use these fighters. The other option for them is to come into India if I take any or all of these fighters to assist in the attack on Egypt. I have to 1 round Egypt and pray that he doesn't get 2 hitbacks. I don't need the fighters in Burma. He has these 7 guys he'll hit back with, so I don't think stepping in hard to Burma is the right move. He's just going to turn around with the fighters. I don't think we're quite yet in a position to try and break out. Let's use an artillery, 1 infantry, at least 1 fighter. And then do we send all 4 of these over here? I just really need to make sure that I don't need them because they have to land in Libya. Are they out of position there? They can't participate in any attack here next turn in Burma. I think I need to use at least 1 fighter in this attack. I mean, 4 is probably overkill here, right? So, hello. Well, I guess we'll send 2 in here. Then these 3 will come here. This fighter will fly down. We'll have 3 fighters in India, 3 fighters in Libya. Gotta take some risks, baby. Risk it for the biscuit. That'll be our combat. Burma, Egypt, Karelia. Lock it in. Nice, nice. All right, combat was great. The heavies came through clutch in I think all these battles. I think we didn't hit with any of the lights, any of the infantry, artilleries, and tanks and fighters I think did all the damage. These 3 fighters are gonna land in Libya. These 2 fighters are gonna land here. I think actually I'm gonna keep this fighter in Russia because we're gonna want some air to assist with whatever we can hit with these 4 units next turn. I'm gonna load up this transport here. Come up, drop him. You're gonna come down, grab the other tank, infantry, drop him into Finland, fighters into Russia. This transport is gonna come up to 7. And then just to be annoying, I'm thinking of sending 3 just to stop him from going and taking Persia. We'll just make it a little more difficult, right? I mean, we have a couple units to spare. We're gonna build 3 more here. I like that. We're just gonna be annoying. I love being annoying. Cruiser, I'll swing you around, continue your long trek across the map. This sub, we'll go ahead and send into 63, and that's gonna do it for the UK round 4. Tank into India, 1 artillery in India, 1 infantry in India, everything else into England. We'll see you guys back for US 4. United States, round 4. Let's take a look at what Team Japan did last turn. They bought 3 tanks, 1 bomber, 2 fighters. Put 3 tanks into Manchuria and bomber fighters into Japan. Combat-wise, they took Sinkang. Went ahead and took the Hawaiian Islands and lost an infantry doing that, so they got 1 remaining there. And then they went ahead and took Egypt and didn't lose anyone in that battle, which is a bummer. All in all, interesting decisions on what to do with Team Japan. He's continuing to fight for the Suez here, and or Egypt/Africa. But if we hit these two guys, he doesn't have reinforcements nearby. So we'll figure out what we want to do and how we want to deal with it. The initial thought here is to close the Suez with these 3 infantry so that he can't bring this fleet into the Med, and move these 2 guys up. And then if he decides to go south with these 2 units, we'd have the option to send, these 5 fighters at it to just protect, all of the money here that the UK is kind of depending on. So that's not something I think we need to think about in UK's next turn. We'll have the same opportunity to do that whether they're in this Egyptian Sudan territory or Egypt itself. But we'll deal with that on the UK's turn. And in general, it seems like he's going with the angsty Japan buy, or what I call the angsty Japan buy, of getting a lot of tanks, spamming tanks in Manchuria and buying bombers and fighters. That doesn't tend to work, but it can get scary. He has 4, 5, 6 fighters on the board. He has 4 bombers on the board. You just eventually kind of run out of guys. At least that's been my experience. So let's pray that is again the case, and see if we can continue to just pump troops out and whittle him down. Score-wise, we're pretty even, so I can't really talk too much ish when the game is very much up in the air still. The Americans, what we're gonna do, because he is in Hawaii now with this 1 unit, we're gonna have to defend the west coast of the US here. So we're gonna build 3, maybe 4, I don't know, it just depends on how I'm feeling during mobilization, but we'll need to put some guys here. And then we're going to reload all of the remaining transports that we have out here in the Atlantic. We're going to build 2 guys in Norway. We purchased an IC there last turn, so we will take advantage of that. And the only other consideration was, what to do with these 2 transports and these units here in Morocco. The initial plan was to give us a shot at getting annoying in the Med, taking Italy, maybe Southern Europe. But I don't think that is any longer in the cards. And the reason being is he has these 5 fighters in Poland for Germany that could hit this mini fleet. We can land fighters on this carrier, but we'll have destroyer, battleship, carrier, 2 fighters. And even if that was enough reason not to risk, losing these transports in this little mini fleet, these 4 fighters from Sea Zone 34 can 1, 2, and then land back on the carriers here. So whatever's remaining, he can just mop it up with Japan. I think that's honestly what he's trying to do. He's trying to bait me into like, oh no, like Italy's undefended, Southern Europe's available, you can hop in here, free territory, which isn't a bad play. I think it's an interesting idea on his part. Whether or not he's trying to do it doesn't matter. I think it's not worth giving him the chance to either realize that that's an option, and I don't think we can afford to lose these boats and these transports at this point. So that leaves 1 option for this group, which means we're going to bring them into 8, drop them into Northwest, just so that they can then enter the Shuck and get into rotation without falling out of turn. So all these 13 units here are to align with all those ideas there. We'll go ahead and lock that in. I mentioned 1 combat already will be to go ahead and hop into Sea Zone 8. So we'll just need to bring some fighters, the cruiser, and maybe even this carrier back to help defend, what's remaining here in Sea Zone 8, which is fine. I have no issue with that. These 4 guys are essentially going to die, which is a bummer. They would have been more useful to swing and grab some territory here in Southern Europe, but this fleet in 34 is just a little too annoying. That's going to be it for the US. A pretty uneventful move here for them, but you got to do what you got to do. We'll continue to just kind of move guys up. We'll be in a much better position next turn to start to get creative with taking some of these territories here in Northern Europe next turn. Non-combat, these boats got to come into 8. All of the American boats come down to Sea Zone 8, please. We will move all of these American units up into Karelia. We will come back to the fighters. In the meantime, we will send 1, the anti-aircraft guns, the additional 3 units here, and then you boys will be coming up, dropping your load into Finland. These transports move up. Did I already send these ones back? I did. Got to double check that always. Always be double checking the transports. So a couple things is this fighter here is really not needed in India anymore. So we'll go ahead and fly that lone fighter into Karelia, which means at least 2 are gonna come back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we'll be much more worried about him hitting this fleet. So we'll just send those 2 fighters back. And this bomber, I think that means we can move him, you know, up into Karelia as well. Participate in any offensives up in Europe. Okay, that's gonna do it. For US non-combat, I think we'll send the 2 artillery into Norway. I think the original thought here was to send 3 infantry and then 8. It's worth noting that these bombers actually cannot hit. So when you're looking at that, you're probably like, oh shit, these bombers are gonna just wipe this unit and he's gonna get this free 10 IPC. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he has nowhere to land. So I know it means we're gonna have an empty spot on one of those transports, but we have an extra AA gun. So for peace of mind, I'm actually gonna put 4 guys here. And then we'll put the 7 infantry in the eastern US, and then we'll fill that last spot on the transport with that other AA gun. That's gonna cover it. That's my thought. I will be able to rest easy with an extra guy there in the western US. Everywhere else, I think we are gonna hold firm. All right, Russia 5. We have 27 IPC. We got 3 fighters on the board, but we're really only working with these little mini stacks of 5, 4, and 4 infantry to pair with the fighters. That means we're gonna need some artillery and some more bodies in general. I mean, he's done a good job just throwing everything at Russia with Germany. If that was his strategy, yeah, he's done really well. He's really continued to thin out our Russian forces. So I don't think going with, like I was last turn, maybe flirting with something like this, like just buying 4 tanks. I think that's a little premature. We can instead do something like that. 6 artilleries and an infantry. Take back West Russia, take back Ukraine, take back Archangel. But let's lock that in. Give us a little kick with the artilleries. Give us the most amount of units that we can place. And as I already mentioned, we're gonna send 2 into Ukraine. We're gonna send at least 2 into, whatchamacallit? The old whatchamacallit. Oh, my mouse died. Give me 1 second. Okay, we are back with a working mouse. Where were we? 2 guys into Archangel. And we know we're gonna need a fighter in all these. So we'll send this 1 fighter here, this 1 fighter into Ukraine. And then my thought was to take West Russia. And I don't think there's any reason why we can't send everything we have into it. We're probably gonna wanna do that, to be honest. Now, the other chance or opportunity that presents itself is to not use these 5 guys here, but to continue to drop back with these 4. We've done a good job holding this northern pass up until now, but I think it's time to bring the boys back home. So if we do that, we can at least do these 2. That gives us these extra 5 guys to use in West Russia, and then we can hit with 7 guys here. This 1 guy will come into Novo, and then we'll have a little wall of solo infantry to defend the line against Japan here. That's gonna do it. Lock that in. Let it run. Infantry are hot. Nice. All right, good turn. Good combat for the Russians. Took everything we wanted, didn't take a ton of hitbacks. So I cannot complain. And just because we can, we're gonna move these anti-aircraft guns into West Russia. And if he wants to send those 3 guys and 5 fighters, we're gonna at least get some shots. And if we can whittle down this stack of fighters, at this point in the game, he can't really afford to lose those. I mean, that's all he has to hit back with. You know, if this was earlier in the game, he you know, probably not care too much about losing a fighter here or there. You can buy some and replace them, but I mean, we're eating into Germany real hard right now. So losing them now is not quite the same thing as losing them in round 1 or 2. And everyone else, fighters, everything into Russia. Go ahead and close the non-com. I totally forgot we can mobilize in Karelia, so that's news to me. But I don't think I want to do that anyways. The American and British troops have more than enough to hold the line there. So I think we're just going to put 1 infantry, 3 artillery in the Caucasus, and then 3 into Russia? Yeah, why not? I think that's going to do it. Okay. Russia 5 in the books. We're down to 25 IPC, and let's take a quick look at the score. Oh, big lead now after we took our turns. Germany is bleeding, 58 attack power. Japan is a beast. We surprisingly have a UK beast on our hands brewing here. 80 attack power with the Brits. That's pretty fun. So we'll see you guys back in Germany 5. United Kingdom, round 5. Take a look at what Germany did, purchase-wise. You know, if it ain't broke, don't break it. Buys 13 infantry. Combat, hit Ukraine, lost an infantry in that, and Northwest Europe took out our 4 guys and lost 2 infantry there. So, hey, we're trading guys on the defensive. That is a success to me. Now, the United Kingdom, we have a pretty decently strong India and a relatively weak presence by Japan on the mainland, at least in the southern end. My purchase here is really to reload the transports in England, and then we're going to put 1 tank and 2 infantry into India. We can lock that in and begin to talk through some combat opportunities. Let's start down here in India. So we're going to take Thailand, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move, I think, all 5 of these infantry into Burma next turn. The thought being, he either has to, you know, spend some units to hit Thailand down here, and if he does, we'll whack him with all 5 in the tanks. He has to come and hit with, you know, these 7 guys and these fighters into Burma. We'll probably thin this out, and then bam, we can whack back with the tanks. And we're gonna have a handful of fighters to support all that as well. So we're just trying to break out with the UK here. These 3 guys, we are gonna move to close the Suez. So we're gonna move them into Transjordan. We need to move these 3 fighters. They'll probably go to India or, you know, potentially up north. Maybe we'll send 1 up north to assist with some of the coming offensives in Northern Europe. And then I want to take both of these territories if I can as well. So I think we have 2 infantry, and then what is it? Infantry tank. Let's do it. We're just all gas right now, baby. All gas, no brakes. Can these fighters support? Please say yes. Please say yes. 1, 2. You can hit that. And then 3, and then land in Karelia, so you can hit that. Additionally, we have the option to land troops and take up a position here in Sea Zone 5. If we do that, we're going to need the American fleet, and that means we're going to have to stop landing in Northwest and France. And looking at these 13 guys in France, I don't think that will be a problem. When given the opportunity, I think we have to take it. So let's just quickly recalculate. And these fighters actually can land on at least one of the carriers. The American has full carriers. Yeah, they don't have enough. So this seems like a no-brainer to me. So let's load up one of these. Take these guys on this transport, land them there. These 2 transports are going to come down. We're going to fill this bad boy up. Send them, drop them there as well. And what that does is it gives us additional flex to send all the infantry here into Bello. I love that. Oh, we got a cruiser. Get you in there too. Come on, join the party, baby. There's a party in the Baltic states and you're invited, Mr. Cruiser. Oh, and don't leave out Mr. Tank. Mr. Finland Tank? No way. Get your ass over in Bello, huh? Come on. All these Germans are looking for a hitting. I don't know where I came up with that New York accent. Let's go ahead and stop that for everyone's benefit. This looks good. I love this. All right, where the pressure's on, Germany. Let's see what you got to respond to us coming in with just max aggression. Yeah, combat was good. Nothing really to note. Took everything we expected to. Now, we'll come back to the fighters. Those are always the hard ones. Like I said, we're going to send these 5 guys into Burma. You know, if I was him, what I would maybe consider doing with Japan, just to be annoying, is, you know, maybe take 1 transport, just send it down here to 28, drop them off at, you know, 2 guys off here in South Africa, and then just, you know, hold these 1, 2, like 3, 4, 5, 6 IPC, you know, from the UK. That's an interesting idea, because I don't really know what fighting over this Suez here is really doing for you. I mean, he can hit this back, but we got these 2 guys and 5 fighters, so eventually he's gonna run out of guys to putz around in here. Anyways, let's try and figure all this out. So fighters onto the carrier, destroyers into C zone. 5. Carrier goes as well. These guys are gonna move up into Karelia. And then fighters can go into West Russia. So how many fighters do we want in India is the question. We probably don't need too many, right? So maybe we send 2 to India, 1 to West Russia. And we'll have 3 planes to assist with attacks with the UK and Europe. Don't hate it. Oh, and the cruiser. How could we forget? I guess you're good here in 9. All right, that's gonna do it. Go ahead and close our non-combat. Tank into India. 2 infantry. And then we're gonna stack these other 6 guys back into England. Close our turn for the UK. We'll see you guys back for US round 5. All right, US round 5. Let's take a look at what Japan did. Went ahead and bought 3 tanks, bomber and a fighter. They went ahead and landed in Midway. Took 2 units, dropped them there. They hit French Indochina. Destroyed artillery, took no losses, and I think they took their 2 guys from Egypt and dropped them in here in Thailand as well. And that's really about it. I mean, the biggest thing to note is really simply that they moved these 4 bombers into Hawaii, and they are now in range of hitting the western US. So we do need to address the fact that he can drop these 2 guys, these 4 bombers, and a battleship. And that's a serious threat. I mean, if he can land some troops here, that's just going to be a real pain in the you-know-what. But overall, he seems to be sticking with this same strategy of buying tanks and bombers. And we'll see how far that gets him. But I don't think that it typically tends to get anyone too far. He does have a nice little stack of 4 tanks now here in Xinjiang with a couple fighters. He's got a nice small 7-unit stack here coming north through Yakut. But at this point, our plan with the Russians is to maybe hit once more into Ukraine, but turn around and start fighting Japan. But purchase-wise for the US, we do need to address this issue on the western coast. So my thought is we're going to buy another 3 infantry, then we're going to buy 2 fighters. So that'll bring us to 7 units, 2 fighters. I think that would be enough to hold against these 6 in a short bombardment. At the very least, he would need to take a lot of hits on the bombers if he's going to leave a unit there and take the territory. But we can always just turn around. Losing San Francisco doesn't lose us the game. It's not the capital for the US. That is actually Washington. So he's not going to steal all our IPC. We're not going to not be able to create units. We'll simply have to just turn around with whatever troops we have on the East Coast here and deal with this issue. It'll be a major headache, which is why I want to avoid it. Not saying that that's something we ever want to allow. So that's what we're going to do purchase-wise. Combat. I don't think there's really anything for us to do with the Americans now that I look a little closer at the board. Yeah, I mean, our only option would be to send, maybe a unit into Szechuan here. Yeah, we'll leave him there. Yeah, I don't think we're going to do any combat. And I just want to double check all these guys are really just going to reinforce in Bello. I'm flirting with the idea of maybe trying to take Ukraine with the Americans to build another IC there. Yeah, unfortunately, these 4 fighters can't come. I would say if I could get these 4 fighters, it might be worth doing it. Send the tank, bomber, fighter, and then these fighters. But without these, it would be a 3 versus 2. We could lose air. If he hits twice, he could take... I mean, he basically would need to miss both, actually. Because I don't think I would take the hit. I think it's like 50-50. that he would hit at least once. And then we obviously have to hit twice, which is not a guarantee. So I think that's a good idea, but not the right play. What might be better is to move these Americans down, take Ukraine light with the Russians, and hope they take it back, and then take with the Americans again next turn. That's probably the route to go if I'm really committed to trying to get this Ukraine territory held by the Americans. Very long-winded way to say that we do not have any actual combat as the Americans. Everything is going to be non-combat for them this turn. So we'll go ahead and close things out here and go ahead and get these troops shuffled around. My thought is that we don't want to lose Belorussia here. So I'm going to go ahead and move all of the American troops into there. We'll shuffle these guys up, move the AA gun. Let's go ahead and move these 6 guys out into Finland. These 2 transports come back. We'll come back here. These 2 transports off the coast of France come back. And then we need to move all these boats into Sea Zone 5. So we have 5 boats going in. My thought is that we don't need these fighters there. He's only got the 5 fighters. Yeah, there's no way he can take a shot at that, even without the American fighters. Which means, where do we land them? I guess there's no reason not to send them to this little stack we got brewing here in Belorussia. I guess Bomber can stay in Karelia. Or actually, you know what? We'll send you to Moscow. Yeah, I think that's good. Alright, we'll close out the American turn. And go ahead and make sure we deploy our 2 fighters onto the western coast. And then our thought was 3 here, 2 into Norway, and then 2 into the eastern US. Part of me just wants to send that additional 1 guy. I mean, what is 1 more infantry gonna do in Europe? Oh, I'm just so nervous with that, so I'm gonna do it. I'm just too scared. We'll send that 2. We'll have, I mean, should I just send them all in there then? I mean, is 1 guy gonna do anything? Yeah, whatever. We'll just send them all here. I don't want to give him any counterplay. I'm just trying to suffocate any ideas that he has right now to give him a chance, because the reality is Germany is only a few rounds away from possible capitulation. So giving Japan any shot at some miraculous dice to turn the tide in this war is not what I'm gonna do. So we'll sacrifice these 2 infantry being in Europe in 2 turns to ensure that we have absolutely no issue holding the Western US here. Probably playing scared a little bit, but I think my logic's sound. Let's just not give him any chance to make a comeback in this one. Now with the Russians, my one thought was a bomber, artillery, 3 infantry. Is that just the craziest thing? I mean, I think instead of the bomber, if we're gonna do that, we do tanks. That's probably a better idea. I just want to get a Russian bomber. You just never really ever do that. But it's kind of a small flex if you can get a Russian bomber on the board. Yeah, I like this. We'll get a couple tanks to fight against all the tanks that he's building and buying. 3 infantry, artillery, 2 tanks. Lock it in. And the question remains, do I want to be ultra aggressive on Germany and just send all 7 of these guys into Ukraine? This is the only combat we're going to do. So I just need to make up my mind on if I want to push hard or if I want to try and take it light. I think that is a little too passive. And we're playing scared with the US and the Western US, so we're going to be aggressive. I want max pressure on Germany. We can deal with Japan. We'll be fine. We obviously have more than enough troops to send, towards Russia if Japan somehow, breaks through and has a serious threat on Moscow, and we have 1 million fighters we can land there. Yeah, he's blocked everywhere. All right, yeah, we're good. These fighters, I think, need to go into West Russia, don't they? So he's gonna take all of these territories, and these are all 1, 2 away from West Russia. This also gives us flexibility to hit Poland or Bulgaria or Romania if he decides to get cute there. Let's send one anti-aircraft gun with that, the other one back into Russia. And then my thought is to move these 3 into Volgograd, or whatever this, Vologda, Volgograd. I think that's gonna do it. Okay, there we go. Let me just double check. You can't blitz through and hit Moscow. I have made that mistake too many times. But yeah, we got guys blocking everything. Lock in the Russian turn. Mobilize our units into the Caucasus here. 2 tanks into Russia. And that's gonna do it for Russia 6. See you guys back for UK 6. All right, United Kingdom, round 6. The writing really does seem to be on the wall for Germany. Take a quick look at what they went ahead and did last turn. They purchased 11 infantry because what else are you going to do at this point? Combat-wise, he did go ahead and hit Baltic states, but came with a big oomph. He did destroy the 6 units we had there, but he lost 3 infantry, artillery, and then 3 fighters. And I gotta think it's pretty safe to say that that might be the nail in the coffin. May not be this turn or next turn, but it might be just a little too much for Germany to come back from. Doesn't mean we need to get lazy though. Doesn't mean we need to get sloppy. Purchase-wise, we're gonna just continue with the plan. We're gonna get 3 units for India. We're gonna reload the transports. And then we're gonna get a bomber. We'll lock it in. British attacks. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna try and take Poland. Plan there is not to actually potentially take the territory, but we'll hopefully get a couple shots on these 4 guys. We have 3 fighters that we can throw into this to help strafe that. If we take it, great. But ultimately the plan is to move the Americans here. We'll move the Russians here into Bulgaria, Romania, and eventually we'll have Germany surrounded, and we'll be able to 1, 2, 3 them. Everything else in Europe is going to be non-combat for the Brits. And then we're going to go ahead and take a shot here on this 9-unit stack in Thailand. So we match them on the ground with the 5 infantry, the 4 tanks. 4 fighters are icing on the cake. And that's going to do it. Pretty easy turn. I mean, this game's kind of playing itself at this point. We're just going to continue to just whittle down Japan, or Germany, and then Japan. All right, combat was fine, to be expected. We ended up taking both territories. We'll send these 4 fighters back to India. Our 4 tanks and 1 infantry survived in the fight here in Thailand. So we'll let these guys then turn and run loose. Begin to take some IPC from Japan. These 3 guys, Transjordan, let's send them back towards the conflict. While we will, however, move these 6 units there. We'll land the 3 fighters in Poland. And these 3 guys, we'll send them in the Baltic states too. Let's just make everything as difficult as possible. The Americans will come into Poland. The Russians will go into Bulgaria. Actually, it's just a minor thing, and it's not like it matters. But I'm going to send 2 guys to the carrier and then 1 guy to Bello. Okay, that's going to close the UK's turn. We'll go ahead and build our bomber in England. Drop 3 infantry. And then the other 6 units are going to go into England. All right, cool. So, look, I'm going to be pretty honest. I think at this point, this game's resignable. Our, we have about a 70-point attack power advantage after that turn. And it's only going to be a matter of time until we take Germany. I mean, we have all 3 nations bearing down on Berlin right now. But it's not over. We'll have to, again, be precise and really try and limit all counterplay our opponent potentially has, but I don't see a way back for the Axis in this one. We'll see if I'm right. We'll see you guys back in US round 6. Welcome back to US round 6. Take a look at what Team Japan did last turn. They bought 3 tanks, 3 infantries, 2 artilleries, and a bomber. Combat-wise, they went ahead and bombed the shit out of San Francisco. In the western US. They did 16 IPC damage. We didn't hit any of the bombers. If you're wondering where those came from, he's got a stack of 5 bombers now sitting in Midway. But I still don't think he has enough to seriously threaten, taking the Western U.S. We got 11 units here now, and the most he could hit with is 7 with a shore bombardment. So at the moment, I think we're safe. He obviously went up here, took Alaska, and then he moved some troops towards Russia, took Evenki, and he took Novo. So he's got a pretty scary stack here brewing. So we're going to have to turn around and address this with the Russians, and may even require some additional support from the Allies. He's got a stack of 4 tanks, 1 infantry here in Novo. He's got these 3 tanks and 7 fighters in Sinkang, and then he's got 5 infantry, artillery, and a tank. So I have to take this seriously. Like, we cannot afford to blunder and give up Moscow here. And he's obviously trying to pave a way for all of his tanks and fighters to hit Moscow and try and turn the tide of the game that way, which is a good idea. His only chance is to do something with Japan. So he's going after the US, and he's throwing a Hail Mary at Moscow as well. So we need to be very careful. So we'll deal with a lot of this on the Russian turn. For the Americans, I don't think I'm going to do anything with the industrial complex at the moment. We have these 8 units that are going to drop over here into Finland. So I think what we need now is to take a pause on, we essentially lost 2 or 3 turns on the shuck into Northern Europe with the Americans because we had to deal with this threat on the Western US. And we also have a lot of infantry. So I think I'm going to take an additional turn here to really try and beef up our attack power. Let's get 2 bombers, and we'll get 2 tanks that we will mobilize in Norway. Japan does have this cheeky little transport that he's sent on a solo bolo to South Africa. Fortunately, it only includes 2 infantry, so it's not a serious threat. We also are going to gobble up a good amount of territory here in the Southeast Asia, so losing 1 or 2 territories in Africa isn't going to kill the British. All right, we'll lock in that purchase for the Americans. 2 tanks, 2 bombers. We'll save that 3 IPC for next turn. We'll let the Russians take Bulgaria. I think that's all we have. So no combat for the US. Well, actually, we will do one. I'm going to bomb Germany. And I swear to God, I always get my bombers shot down doing these type of bombardments. Anytime there's an AA gun, I lose aircraft. I have the worst luck in the world of the defense rolling one. So I'm calling it now. And if I freak out, you guys know why. Because it, at least lately, has been an incredible round of just terrible luck when these guys are shooting ones to hit back. And everything else is going to be non-com. We're just going to bomb Germany with the US. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's infantry. Take that. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Our bomber survived. I can't believe it. I mean, I shouldn't. The odds are that wouldn't happen. I've just been snake bit 1 too many times. All of the Americans are coming into Poland. So we're going to have 2, 10, and I can put 15 with the fighters there. We'll come back to the fighters. These 3 guys, I mean, the Germans attack next, so maybe then there's no point to have them in, what is this, Bello? So let's put these 3 guys with the British and Baltic. We'll send the AA gun in there. Everyone else is going to move up into Karelia. These 2 guys into Finland. I'm just double checking to make sure that I have everything in range of hitting Germany. And I need to leave as many transports. I mean, I guess I can leave all the transports, to be honest. What's the point of moving them back here? I literally don't have any troops that they could pick up. Yeah, I don't think I have to worry about that. Doing the math, at least. Don't need to stress about doing math. And if you don't need to stress about doing math, why do it? Why stress? So I have these 7 transports to take these 2 tanks, these 10 other additional infantry. I guess, one of them's an AA gun, but that don't matter. And we'll look to use that on potentially beginning to hit Germany next round. I mean, he has to move everything back into Germany. I think I'll have enough to 1, 2, 3 him. So all that means is the bomber should probably go into Finland. The fighters should probably go with this stack of 10 guys here in Poland. Okay, that's going to do it. To just kind of recap all my thoughts here, we're just trying to get everything in range of hitting Germany. So we'll have all these 7 transports up here with this stack of guys in Finland to hit. We're going to move everything we have on a border territory with Germany, and it'll give us a chance to 1, 2, 3, potentially starting with the British next turn. But we'll see. We shall see. That's going to close our non-combat. We're We're going to mobilize these 2 tanks and the bombers into eastern US. And that'll close the US turn. The Russians, I don't think we do anything here other than begin to prepare our defenses against the Japanese with 7 infantry, 1 artillery. Lock that in. And as I mentioned, I think our only attack is to hit these 4 tanks that are relatively undefended here in Novo. So I think we'll send all of the infantry and artillery that can hit. That's already what, a 6v5 plus 3 fighters. I'll come back to that, but we do know we want these 8 guys to come down into Bulgaria, Romania, because we may need them to provide the last kick on any attack we do on Germany next turn. These 3 fighters will 1, 2, and then 3, 4 back into West Russia. So I want to make sure I don't blunder Moscow here. It's a good idea, right? So we're going to take this territory, but these 2 will be open. So he can send 1, 2, you can only send the 1 tank and the 7 fighters. All his bombers are out of range. That's going to give him 8 units. We're going to build 8 units, and we have 4 units. That's going to be 12. We can leave the 2 tanks. It's going to be 14. 14 versus 8. I mean, he shouldn't win that. He shouldn't have a chance to win that. And if we decide not to do the 1, 2, 3 on Germany, we can decide to maybe drop a fighter or 2 on the British turn. Unfortunately, I can't really figure out if we're going to do that now, because if he drops all 16 of these guys in France into Germany, that'll probably change the calculus, meaning we won't know if we can land the Russian fighters here or if we can keep them in Moscow this turn. Because if he kind of keeps this stack the way it is, we'll have a serious shot, but he can obviously change that with what he builds and what he moves in there. Okay, I like that. We'll leave the tanks here. We'll go ahead and lock in that combat for the Russians. Bulgaria, Novo. Boom. Let's hope for some good days. Alright, we have taken back Novo. These 3 fighters go to West Russia to send back the AA gun. These guys will go back to Russia. These 4 units from the Caucasus. This AA gun's going to come up to Bulgaria, and that's going to do it. We'll close the Russian turn. Build everything into Moscow. But that will close Russian 7, and we will see you guys back for UK 7. United Kingdom, round number 7. Take a look at what the Germans did last turn. Though, I think we can all guess what they did. Bought 8 infantry. They repaired the 3 points of damage we did on the industrial complex. They moved some infantry around and ended up with this. They now have 40 infantry in Germany, 2 artilleries, 2 fighters, and they have 12 infantry and 3 AA guns in France. I did do a quick calculation on what our chances are to take Germany. If we went 1, 2, 3, British, Americans, Russians, we'd have a 70% chance to take it. I think given the state of the game, I don't think we necessarily need to rush to take our shot. So I think we're going to hold off for at least 1 more turn. We shouldn't really lose an opportunity at this point. The Germans are only building, they have 7 units a turn. We're going to bomb them again. And so I think just continuing to just be a boa constrictor, just continue to just tighten the noose on Germany is probably a safer play than taking a 70% chance. We can probably get that up to, I don't know, closer to 85, 90%, and then we'll shoot our shot. I don't think we're really at any risk of losing that opportunity with the state of Japan and what they might be able to do with the current setup that they have in East Asia. So what we're going to do, we're going to reload the transports. We're going to kind of stick with the strategy here. 4 infantry, 2 artilleries. We're going to forego a purchase in India at the moment. I don't think it's required. We have quite a few troops down here. And instead, we're going to buy 2 bombers. So we'll have 8 total units all deploying into England. Lock in the purchase. Combats are pretty straightforward. We'll blitz 1 tank down into Malaya. They will return. This 1 guy will step into Yunnan. These 5 guys will step over. And then we're going to fly these fighters up into the battle. Get them involved with the attack on Germany. We'll keep a couple down here. Maybe we'll send 2 up there. We'll keep 2 fighters down here. We'll send 1 fighter to Africa to deal with, these 2 infantry he's trying to land down here. And then we're going to bomb Germany. And I think that's all we can do. I'm going to take Northwest. That's actually kind of a no-brainer. So I can take 1 infantry here. Well, no, I actually don't want to do that. we can take 1 transport and take 2 infantry and come back to 5, drop into northwest because we do not want the transport. Stuck in 6. There's no one in this territory, right? Sometimes I feel like you can't see. Yeah, so all right, so we'll take northwest. He'll probably take it back, but that's fine. We'll at least start trading that. We could blitz the tank down here into southern Europe, but the Russians will step in there. And then I think we will have to plan to move and kind of shuffle everyone down a territory, but we'll do that in the non-combat. Do have a sub. Should we go ahead and shoot it at this battleship? Yeah, why not? I don't think this sub's really doing much. Well, I don't know. It keeps him honest. But he's dead either way, right? If he really wants to kill it. Let's shoot it. F it. So we have only, what, 2 actual combat. Everything else will be non-combat. Go ahead and lock that in. Ready for miss here? Ooh. Oh, baby. That's what I'm talking about. This would be hilarious. If we somehow took out this battleship. Got him now. Oh. Ah, damn. All right. Bomber did not die, so that was great. We did hit the battleship with our sub on the first turn, but he hit us right back. So our dreams of possibly taking that were squashed. 2 infantry, 1 fighter down in Africa to deal with this transport. These 3 units will step into Kazakh. 5 infantry moving east, or maybe not 5. So he has 2 here. 1, 2, 3. He cannot hit with the fighters. So all he can hit with are those 2. Are these 2 infantry? Is that what this is? Yeah. And he has bombers. He's got 5 over there. He's got to get these bombers back here. I mean, he has something. If he brings the bombers back, he has a little something more. Bomber can't hit. Yeah. So none of his air can hit India, but we do want to keep a couple things here. So let's move the artillery up, and let's move up 4. No, not 4. That's not what I meant. 3. So we'll have 2 units staying in India. These tanks, the ones that can move, will move into Burma. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't want to have him hit with these 10 units here. Let's at least consolidate our troops, and then we can kind of push and force together so that if he does take that shot, it's going to cost him, hopefully. That's at least the idea. And then just because I don't want to get too cute with India, we'll leave 2 fighters because I think I'm gonna want, well, we'll take 1 fighter, send that to Karelia, or actually, where's that 1 fighter? Karelia. We'll send you to Poland. Then we'll keep 2 fighters with the 2 infantry in India to protect against that transport, and then help with our attack in Southeast Asia. And then here's my additional thought. So we have 7 units. Where are you though? You're in the Baltic. I think I need to move you down. So you'll be with these 2 tanks. These Americans will move down to Bulgaria. The Russians will move into Southern Europe. 2 artilleries will come with. These other units here on England will be picked up, dropped into Baltic. The Americans will drop into Baltic. Cruiser can come into Baltic. And then the fighters aren't doing anything. I mean, he can hit one of these. That's why I'm trying to think and do the math on like when and what he would swing with. I thought we had enough for the American fighters. So we're going to have 9 units in here. 3 Americans will come with us. So we'll have 12. We'll have 15 units there. He would need to step in with, I would assume, swinging 1s, like everything, right? Okay, yeah. So, well, or like 20 or 25 infantry, which I'd assume if he did that, we would hit so much. And he's not building enough that would, be a serious thing. I want to actually take this fighter back, send him there, and then these 2 tanks will actually lead the way with these Americans into Bulgaria, Romania. All right. Feel good. We'll close that turn there. We will mobilize our bombers, 2 artillery, 4 infantry in England, and we will see you all back for US round number 7. The United States, round 7. Take a look at what Japan did. They went and purchased 3 tanks, a transport, 2 infantry, 2 artilleries. Mobilized that all to Manchuria, in and around Japan. Combat-wise, he went ahead and just put the icing on the cake on our IC in the western U.S. It's now at -20, completely destroyed. He stepped into Western Canada, moved these transports here back to Japan. He then surrounded Moscow, took Archangel, Vologda, stepped into Novo. So we're going to have to deal with all this and figure out what we're going to do with the Americans. As I mentioned, our Western United States factory is just completely destroyed. It's really frustrating we have not hit one of these bombers. Like how he sent, at this point now, what, 11 bombers at us? And I think we get to shoot at every one. And it's pretty shocking. I mean, that's a pretty shocking outcome to have not hit one. I don't think we're going to need to really worry about this just yet. You know, maybe next turn, if he moves some guys here into Alaska, maybe then we'll have to just bite the bullet and spend, you know, 12, 13 IPC so we can build a couple extra guys there. But for now, I don't think we need to worry about it. I'm thinking we're going to buy 4 infantry, 4 artillery. Need to figure out, or at least, you know, be prepared to, you know, start sending transports back and forth again. Eventually, we're going to, you know, stop having, you know, potential odds on Germany if we don't keep pace and continue to build units. The Russians aren't putting more units in. We only have like a couple turns of these guys to walk into Europe. And then there's going to be a gap in between us adding more units to this pressure on Germany. So we need to be prepared to try and start and ramp that up again. 2 of those will go into Norway, everything else in the eastern US, and then we're going to get another bomber. I do think we want to bomb Germany. Every unit that he can't build because we have taken IPC from him is a win. We can take this one guy. We'll go ahead and step into Sinkang. Then we will step into Szechuan with the Brits. Russians will deal with this mini stack in Novo. They can deal with Vologda. And then I'm thinking maybe with the Americans, we can support them in at least taking out the 1 unit. Trying to at least take out the 1 unit in Archangel. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll send 1 artillery. And then we will send 1 fighter. And really all I'm trying to do is just hit the 1 unit. Don't really care too much about taking the territory. And then we will take Canada back in force. We'll send all 9 of our guys here. These 2 fighters. Okay, I think that is it for combat. So we'll step into Canada with those guys. We'll try to take out this 1 unit in Archangel. We will step into Sinkang and we'll bomb Germany. Let the dice roll. Alright, combat was good. I don't think we lost anyone. Bomber survived. I always get so nervous with these when they're bombarding the ICs. So they have survived at least 1 other turn. We're going to move all these guys back into their respective territories. We'll send the fighter to Karelia. We'll send the bomber to Norway. These 3 bombers, these other 2 bombers, I should say. Or actually, do I want to keep them... Do I want to keep them in the eastern U.S.? And the thought is 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, we can't. I'm just thinking of, you know, potentially trying to keep the bombers to hit this battleship. So if he sends like these 2 transports, obviously if he drops the guys, it's not a problem. We'll be able to hit with these 9 guys and these fighters. 1, 2, yeah. But he can keep the guys on the transport, right? And the fighters then can't hit the C zone, but the bombers could. If I leave them here in eastern Canada. We are building 1. So we'd actually have 3 bombers in range to hit C-Zone 64. Yeah, and if he just sends the 1 battleship, I'll probably do that. Just to kind of fuck with Japan again. And from eastern Canada, I think we can still hit Germany if he doesn't go that route. 1, 2, 3. Or actually, we'd go this way. So if they're landed here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 land in one of these 3 territories. Yeah, I'll do that. We'll send these bombers here. We'll obviously build 1 then. And if we build 1, can it still hit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, as long as we hold Western Canada, we'll be good. We can't forget to rotate all these guys down. We'll send these 3 guys down into Poland. This little stack of guys will come down into, come on, get the tank. And I think we're all right. We'll move these 4 fighters down. Just continue to move. He hasn't taken a swing at any of these, so I'm assuming there's no reason to think that he would, especially if he has to spend IPC in rebuilding his factories here. These 9 guys will walk up. Tanks will walk into Karelia. Transports can stay here in C-Zone 3. It'll be a turn at least until they can potentially pick up, you know, anything we deploy to the eastern US this turn. And now I'm just thinking these 2 fighters, I don't think we can land them here in the western US, unfortunately, because I think he would just hit it with these 6 bombers. So I think they kind of have to go to, what is this, eastern Canada then? And that's going to do it for the Americans. We'll go ahead and close out our combat. We will send 1 artillery, 1 infantry to Norway, everything else into the eastern United States, and we will turn our attention to the Russians. I don't think there's much we can do with the Russians other than continue to just turn out as many bodies as we can. So we can get 8 more units. Let's go ahead and lock that in. 6 infantry, 2 artilleries. And then we are going to take, well, there's no reason. Well, I think I do want to use the artillery here. So we can send 2 infantries there. Everything else is going into Novo. He does not have a counterattack with ground units. He can 1, 2, 3 send all of his air if he really wanted to do that. We're going to send 2 fighters after the 1 infantry. Send another fighter into Novo. And then all these guys are going to step into Southern Europe. And that's going to do it for the Russians. We'll go ahead and lock it in. And let the dice roll. Combat was mixed. Did quite a bit of damage in Novo, so I'm glad I sent everything. We'll go ahead and return the fighters. We'll send these guys back to West Russia. We'll move the AA gun down. And that's just to make sure that... Oh, no, actually, why don't we send this up with these guys? The having the fighters here in West Russia is just in case I have a chance to take a shot at Germany. I'm going to want these 3 fighters, you know, in the last punch with Russia, if we decide to do that. So I think we'll send the 2 artilleries, 2 infantry into the Caucasus, the other 4 into Russia. And we will go ahead and close the Russian turn. And we will see you guys back for UK round number 8. United Kingdom, round number 8. Take a quick recap of what happened. Oh, we'll do a quick snapshot. We now have a 100-point attack power lead, which is pretty substantial. Just need to continue to strangle Germany. And eventually we'll have a shot at Berlin. Purchase-wise, they just bought 5 infantry. They repaired 8 points damage to their industrial complex. Combat-wise, they moved into northwestern Europe, destroyed 2 infantry, lost 1 infantry, took that territory back. And that was it. For the UK, we're going to stick with our strategy of just dumping units into Europe, and eventually we'll have odds to do a 1-2-3. That means our purchase is going to be 5 infantry, 3 artilleries, 1 tank, and a bomber. We'll put 1 infantry, artillery, and 1 tank into India. Everything else will go into the UK. We'll lock that in. Combat, we're going to do 2 here in Europe. We're going to blitz the tank to take Italy. We'll reinforce that with the Russians, but I want to make sure either the Americans or the British have that factory there. We also are going to then land in northwestern Europe, not with all 3. Cancel. We'll just take the 1 infantry, 1 artillery, come back to 5, drop you there. These 4 fighters will assist in that battle. All 3 bombers are going to Germany. We will bomb the shit out of Berlin. And then I think we can bombard from Season 5 as well, which is great. So we'll add that. Now for India, Africa, we're going to take this 1 fighter. We're going to hit the transport and then land in Madagascar. I'm going to keep both these infantry here. Wherever these guys step, we'll go ahead and hit them after that. Now I do need to keep in mind he has 3 transports now in range of Burma. The bombers are out of range, so we don't have to worry about that, but he'd be able to bombard, and 7 fighters is always a little scary, right? Oh, he does have this 1 transport, so he can drop 2 guys. Then he has 2 carriers, so he could bring 4 fighters. Probably not worth doing that and giving up India. So to hold India means we can't probably stack Burma. I think we'll at least send 1 guy here. And then we'll just look to just block and hold Japan in here. So I don't think we're gonna step up into Asia because I don't see the reason to kamikaze all our units. He has these 5 guys that he would be able to hit Yunnan with. Well, it's not even just 5, it's 5 plus 4, that's 9 plus all 7 fighters. So that's pretty crazy. So that does that mean we just kind of pull back and then see what he does? I'm also thinking he might take these guys to Alaska because he's kind of got a little bit of a fascination with taking this Western US. All right, well, I think all that said is, all that means is we're not gonna push hard into Asia. So for combat, that's all we're gonna do. We're not gonna hit anything else. I think that's gonna do it for combat. We'll figure everything else in the non-combat. Go ahead and lock this in. All right, combat was good. No hitbacks in Northwest. However, we did lose a bomber in the bomb on Berlin, but that is to be expected, and that's why we're buying a new one every turn, really, from this point out. And this fighter is going to land in Madagascar. These 2 guys will stay there. I think we'll have to do 1 more shuffle to get these Russians into Italy. So we're going to send these guys down into, what is this, southern Bulgaria, Romania. These 2 guys will come down into Europe, or Poland. I'm just like rambling right now. These fighters, I suppose, will come back to, I mean, they were in Poland before, so they're probably safe here in Bulgaria. Those 2 guys are good. We want to get the rest of these guys onto the Baltic. Drop those there. And then I think we're going to want to step back with everything while also sending these 2 infantry that way. Then we'll send 2 infantry back. We'll send these 3 tanks this way, and they can always come back. Tank into India, 2 artilleries in India. That is going to cover it. All right, let's go ahead and close our turn with the UK. We'll tank, infantry. Artillery. 1 infantry. Everything else into England, infantry, artillery, bomber, and that is going to close our turn with the UK. See you guys back for US round 8. US round number 8. Take a look at what Japan did. They were mighty busy, continuing to buy 3 tanks, more bombers, 1 infantry. This guy might have the most bombers I've ever seen in a game. I think he's up to 8 with Japan. Combat-wise, he took Yunnan. We traded an infantry there. He hopped into Sichuan with 2 guys, 2 tanks and 1 infantry. Sinkang, 3 tanks, 2 infantry. And that is going to cover it for all the moves of Japan. He did pull his transports and fleets out of 62, move that into 61. So now we have to really start thinking about India, making sure that we don't blunder that. Because he has, what is this, 11, he has 15 aircraft. I mean, dropping those 6 guys with 15 air, I mean, we might not be able to hold India, to be honest. We'll see. For the Americans, we are going to go ahead. We're going to buy 3 infantry, 2 artillery, bomber, fighter. I'm going to put the bomber and fighter into Norway. And we'll buy these 5 land units into the eastern US because we actually now have enough where we can drop these 7 transports back and then begin to try and establish, at least drop in, 14 units every other round? And I think just continuing to put the pressure on Germany is really all we can do. So bomber fighter will be able to assist from Norway. Those 5 guys will be able to assist in a later round shock. So that's the idea there. We'll lock in the purchase. In combat, I don't think there's much to do. We'll go ahead and keep this artillery with the Russians here. So we'll grab a Venki for them. I don't think we're ready to take any shots on Germany. And we don't have any guys that we could take into France. We'll probably look at doing that next turn, is my hope. We'll go ahead and we'll bomb Germany. I do have the option to bomb with these 2 bombers here. But they need to then land in one of these border territories. But he has not struck out yet with these 45 infantry. There's so much going on here. It's hard to tell even where your opportunities lie. But seeing as Germany only has, they have 21 IPC. We're going to hit with 1 bomber. If we hit again, we'll at least get him over 10, right? Which gives him 3 to 4 more infantry that he can add. By sending all 3, he can potentially not build any. And we're building more bombers. We have another one here too that's going to fly over. We'll land him in England. Oh, while we're here, 1 guy going to Alaska. We'll take that money back. And then those other 8 will come here with these 6. Yeah, you know what? I don't see any reason why we don't bomb Germany. With these additional 2 bombers, we have... That's going to be it for U.S. combat. We're going to take Alaska. We're going to bomb Germany. I mean, we didn't lose any bombers, so I can't complain, but we had almost the worst roll you could possibly get. 2 2s and a 1. Oh, man. That's pretty funny. We're going to move these 5 infantry down. 2 artilleries down. A gun's already in Bella. We'll come back to that. Or Poland. These 9 infantry are coming to Baltic. Now the 2 tanks, we'll send them into Poland. Because I think we're going to then land this fighter in Poland. We'll land... Which one of these bombers has only 1 left? Oh, these 2. So this guy, we're going to Poland, and then the other one, we're going to Poland. But my initial thought was to send the 1 bomber there. These 2 fighters. We know we're going to want to send the Americans here, down into Southern Europe, because the Russians are going to move into Italy. We'll send 1 guy down here. We'll keep these 2 here. We can put all these fighters there. This bomber in the US is coming to England. These units are all going to slide into Canada. These 7 transports are coming back. Should set us up to take a swing at France next round and finally secure France from the Germans. Now, the only other thought I had was about boats. He only has the 2 fighters, so we can begin at looking at moving this fleet out. But they're not doing anything in here, right? So if we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hits we could take in this. Let's take the carrier, the battleships. But they're not doing anything in Sea Zone 5. Let's swing them out and see if we can start putting pressure elsewhere. And we'll go ahead and close the U.S. turn there. We're going to mobilize the bomber, the fighter, into Norway. Everything else is going into the eastern U.S. Now the Russians just need to try and survive what is coming from Japan. So we will go ahead by 8 infantry and an artillery, 9. Let's go 4 and 4. I take back what I said. It's 1 less guy, but at least all of these are hitting at 2s, and I think we'll need that extra advantage on the hits. So that's going to lock it in. 4 infantry, 4 artilleries. Now combat, I think my only combat is going to be in Sinkang here. And I think that's going to be with these 5 guys. And then we'll hit with the fighters. The only issue if we do that is the fighters will need to land in Novo. Takes the fighters off of potentially hitting Germany next turn. I think we need to resign ourselves to the fact that they will not be able to participate in a final punch on Germany. Yeah, I think stopping Japan with where they are now is probably a priority for the Russians. That is it for Russian combat. Says we're strong. Let's find out. All right, combat was okay. Can't complain. We'll go ahead and move all these guys up. And I'm gonna move these guys down. We'll just leave the American there to fend for himself. I don't think he's under threat just yet. And then everyone else, I think we're gonna wanna move over. So my other thought is do we move? We probably want to retreat because we're never gonna be able to really stack and hold any of these territories. So I don't think my strategy is to do that. It's really to just hold the line against Japan. So whatever he puts in here, we just want to be in a position where we can hit it. That's going to close the Russians. We'll get our mobilization done. We'll just go ahead and split these into each of the Caucasus and Russia. And then we will see you guys on UK round 9. And there it is. Our enemy has officially fled from battle. We are going to go ahead and take home the dub. And if he didn't time out and ultimately resign, I think his time was limited either way. I did calculate Germany's chance to survive at basically 0.1. Even if he moved all 11 of these guys from France into Germany, we were going to drop 14 guys here. We were going to buy a couple more bombers from the UK, from England, and then it was over. So I don't think there was anything he could have done to save Germany, and there just wasn't much he could do with Japan. And resigning at this point makes total sense. So great game to our opponent. I thought it was a good game. General thoughts on this was I thought I conducted a well-executed Scandinavian shuck, and we ultimately were able to put a lot of pressure on Germany. When Germany's under fire like this, buying infantry is obviously the play. Curious to get everyone's thoughts. If you were our opponent, would you have sprinkled in more artillery, some more fighters or bombers? Probably fighters, right? Bombers probably wouldn't help you much on the defense. But it's tough to do much when you have, a bunch of guys just rolling ones. If you want to hit a stack of 10 guys that I have here on Germany's borders, you're going to have to send, 25, 30 infantry if you don't have anything to kind of push with it. I'm not sure. I think it probably wouldn't have mattered either way. I think we developed a pretty good sizable advantage pretty early on in this one. And we were able to contain Japan. Additionally, I think our opponent kind of missed the mark on kind of trying to jump into Egypt here. If I'm remembering the games correctly, I think there was a point he had his fleet here in 34 for like 2-3 turns and wasn't really getting anything into the mainland off of the island of Japan. And he went with the tried and true approach of buying lots of tanks and bombers as Japan. It's scary, but it doesn't do much. I just don't think that's a proven successful strategy, and I think most very seasoned players, experienced players in this game would tell you that that's not the best approach with Japan either. Case in point, you have, 6, 7, 8 bombers, and what were you able to get out of it? You're able to bomb the shit out of San Francisco. But what does that do? It obviously doesn't do much for you if the United States is going full in on trying to get Germany, right? But I want to give ourselves some credit. It was a very well-executed logistical operation for the most part. I mean, we obviously had our issues with having to deal with some threats off of our west coast as the U.S. Put a couple delays in turns in regards to the units that we could get into Europe. But at the end of the day, we just were able to get too many troops on the ground, and Germany was not able to fight back. So what can you do? Either way, it was a great game. Hats off to our opponent. If you guys enjoyed the video, please do like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm going to have a lot more games coming with the new ranked season having kicked off. I believe this is my first Allies game, my first placement game with the Allies for the new season. Planning to share the rest of them as I continue to go through that and see how far I can climb up the ladder, the ranked ladder. So like, subscribe, do all those things, and I will go ahead and see you guys in the next one.